Well, welcome to the Transportation and Infrastructure Summit, hosted and sponsored by our mayor, Mayor Catherine Pugh, and our Congressman Elijah Cummings. And before I say very much, we're going to start with a welcome from our mayor, Mayor Catherine Pugh.
Scott, let me say thank you, first of all. Thank you all. Thank you so much. Let me just say why this is so important. Infrastructure needs in our city are just overwhelming. Billions, I'm not saying millions, I'm saying billions of dollars of work to be done in our city alone. When you all think about just the number of water main breaks we've had, I think 100 in 1 week, am I correct, Mr. Jones?
600 in 2 weeks.
600 in 2 weeks. Do you know why that is? Because our pipe system is old. And what we've been doing over the years is, I call it kicking the can down the street. But we've been trying to fix it here, fix it there, fix it here, fix it there. We've spent millions. And there are processes that many of you in this room probably don't know about, and I know that this panel will share it with you. But it is incumbent upon us, especially African Americans and other minorities and folks, to really get engaged with the opportunities that will result from this. Because we're not being pre-qualified, am I not right? We're not working in large numbers on these systems. And when I talk about infrastructure, it's not just about transportation, it's not just about the water system, it is also about the number of board of houses that exist in the city. That is part of our infrastructure as well. So when I'm preparing, like we have prepared what I call an opportunity zone package for the federal government to identify neighborhoods in our city that have been neglected for decades. You know, you see what's happened in the EDBI area over in East Baltimore, where not only did they replace board of houses, but with the replacement of the board of houses comes the replacement of the infrastructure. New lights, new pipes, and here's what a lot of folks don't know. Baltimore City owns the water system for all of the jurisdictions surrounding the city. You know, when I get a call from someone who lives in Hunt Valley to say, hey, can you do something about the pipes that are broke in my area, because they don't do that for them, and we own the system. For Anne Arundel County, Carroll County, Baltimore County, Hartford County, we supply the water. So we have to make sure, and it is such a tremendous asset, and we can't fix it just on the backs of people who live in the city.
I agree.
You just can't do it.
I agree with you.
And so we're constantly looking, you know, for federal dollars in support, but also understanding the value of our system. Transportation, you all know we turned back $900 million got turned back to the federal government for a transportation system for the Red Line that creates thousands and thousands of jobs.
Sure.
And we turned money that Barbara Mikulski worked years on with our delegation so that we could create a rapid transit system in the city that improves transportation for people living in our city to surrounding jurisdictions. We can do better. But here's my commitment to you all. We've got to grow our businesses. We've got to expand our businesses. And they will tell you at the, what we call the pre-board of estimates meeting, as someone said to me one time, they said, well, you know, first of all, we don't know a mayor who sits at every pre-board of estimates meeting. I used to think that the pre-board of estimates meeting was a 15-minute meeting we used to have in the back room before we went out to the board of estimates meeting. I just tell you all this quick story. I never forget my first day at City Hall. I walked in, I'm walking out, all this noise in the conference room, and I walk in, and so I walk in, man, you can't come in because if you do, somebody has to leave. And I'm like, what? So the following week I go to the what I thought was the pre-board of estimates meeting in the back room, And so they said, page 1 through 79 is routine. I said, well, nothing's routine, I just got here. So I made them go through pages 1 through 19. I don't understand that, pull that, pull that, pull this, pull that, pull that. Where is the MBE, WBE participation? Where's the African American participation? Because if we're ever going to equalize wealth and opportunity in the city, we have to be more inclusive. It doesn't work any other way. We can't build up our city, we can't build up our communities when 67% of the population is African American. It can't grow that way. And so we have to be more inclusive. We have to be more diverse. We have to share opportunity. If we're talking about changing the paradigm for African Americans and other minorities and folks who live in the city. And I am very big on living in the city, working in the city, creating opportunities and taking advantage of the opportunities in the city. We have to do that. And so I know that there are billions of dollars in contracts, and there's a whole, how many people know about pre-qualification?
Sure, that's it.
Well, everybody doesn't know that. There are certain contracts that are called, especially in public works, pre-qualification. I said, what is pre-qualification? If I'm MBE certified, I thought I was qualified. So I have a whole other topic around MBE and qualifying, because if you look at it, you know what I look like. But, it's a process, and we get that. But at the same time, there's so many of us who are missing out because we don't even know that process. And I know that Mr. Chow will explain that to you. Department of Transportation, again, Michelle Pashou, billions of dollars in contracts. General services, loads of contracts being given out. So we got to get in the game or get in the opportunity, because it's not a game, it's about business. So let's make sure we understand these opportunities, that we are participating, and in some cases we're collaborating, and we're holding people's feet to the fire. And I tell people this is not a charity program, this is about capacity and capability. In some cases we may need to partner. Whatever it takes to be a part of the opportunity, we ought to be willing to do that as long as it's legal. And so I'm excited that so many of you have shown up. I'm really grateful to the Congressman for having us do this. And as I said to him, time and time again, you can always count on me when it comes to creating opportunities for people in our city. Roadways, bridges, tunnel, our water system. And again, for me, it's about how we increase the opportunities, but more importantly, create a better city for all of us. And increasing your bonding capacity, I'm sure that you all will share that information as well. A lot of this work has to be completed in the next few years. So I hope that what comes out of here is valuable to each and every one of you, that perhaps a part of this will be getting to know other folks in this room who have capacity and capability that can partner with you, and knowing how to develop a line of credit with local lending institutions is also going to be important, because this is not work for 3 months or 6 months. This is work for years to come. So hopefully you'll take advantage of this. I look forward to you taking advantage of it, and more importantly, growing your businesses, growing your companies and organizations. We got some great people in this room, and if you don't get the answers that you need, where's Paul Taylor? Make sure y'all hit him up, because he's in the mayor's office with responsibility to increase and expand opportunities for African Americans, other minorities, and individuals in this city who want to do business with our city and do right by our city. Thank you all.
Don't move, everybody. I didn't introduce myself. My name is Scott Phillips, and I'm the project director of the Mid-Atlantic Region Advanced Manufacturing Center, which is a grant from the U.S. Department of Commerce, which was sponsored by the city of Baltimore. So I thank you, because that's why I'm here. But I also want to say, I hope you really listen to what the mayor said, because she set the stage for what we're going to discuss tonight. So I don't have to say much else, but I will say this. The anecdote that she shared as it relates to the Board of Estimates, I've dealt with mayors here in the city of Baltimore for over 20 years as an entrepreneur. She is the first mayor that I've ever known to conduct the pre-Board of Estimates meetings the way she does. I want to commend you for that because it makes a difference when the mayor says, where is the beef? Madam Mayor, thank you.
Thank you. Can I also acknowledge, I see Verna Jones is sitting here as well. Verna Jones Rodwell is running our Main Streets program. I see Courtney up there. Courtney, so if you have problems and you're not getting your certification, because I used to beat him up to death at the pre-board meetings, and so he really takes his position very seriously, because I asked the question, why are there not MBEs, WBEs, African Americans on these contracts? And I will pull a contract in a minute, because I know that nobody's doing anything exclusively today, especially this kind of work. Okay? Thank you all. Thanks again.
Thank you, Madam. Now, I get to introduce a good friend. Representing Congressman Elijah Cummings is his Chief of Staff, Mr. Vernon Sims.
You gotta love the mayor. You gotta love anybody who says that I am going to do it and they change the way that things have been done in terms of their sphere, which changes what is done in the entire sphere. Good evening, everybody. My name is Vernon Sims. I'm Congressman Cummings' Chief of Staff. Can you hear me okay? Okay. Congressman Cummings had 2 knee operations a little while ago, and he's been in rehab. He's close at Hopkins. He would hop here if he had his way, but his doctors won't let him do that. So I'm here on his behalf. I want to thank the mayor. I want to thank the mayor's staff. I want to thank Anthony Robinson and Carl Evans for taking the time to participate in the process of putting this seminar together. And I bring greetings on behalf of Congressman Cummings, and I won't be long. So the congressman was a businessman for a number of years, so he has a deep understanding of what it means to miss or make payroll on Thursday. So he is basically a person who says part of his job is just to distribute resources. If the communities in Baltimore City, Baltimore County, and Howard County, he represents about 75% of Baltimore City, 70% of Howard County, about 50% of Western Baltimore County, and about 40% of Northern Baltimore County up to Oregon Ridge. So he has a district that has everything in it but the Chesapeake Bay. If there are no small minority businesses, there is no real economic engine in those communities. If there is no economic engine in those communities fail. So this seminar tonight is an opportunity for you to connect with people, and it's the real people. It's not somebody who's saying, well, I don't know what to do, I don't know where to go, I don't know what you're talking about. So he would encourage you, if he were here, to connect, to listen, to get the information. If you have a problem that is congressional in nature, he would ask you to call me. I'll give you my cell phone number. It's 202, I'm not going to repeat it twice, 202-225-8712. No, it's 202-225-8712. From Washington, D.C., and I am not being political because I can't be, there will probably not be a lot of money coming except for as infrastructure. And that will be probably, and I'm saying probably because I would not chance predicting what will come out of Washington right now, but it's likely that those infrastructure projects are going to come from Washington. There will be money coming from D.C., and it's because it has to come, because things are falling apart. So I would encourage you to take advantage of tonight. Keep in mind that there is more money coming. There is more money coming. So you should be ready for that. Mr. Robinson will tell you eventually where that money's coming from. He will not. Anyway, I bring you greetings on behalf of Congressman Cummings. I'll be around if you have any questions. I am not really the person that you need to talk to about what's going on tonight. Please take advantage of this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vernon. So this evening, before we begin with the panel, the mayor began introducing a few folks. And what I'm going to do is, and I may not know everyone in the room, as we look at going after opportunities, infrastructure opportunities, government-funded projects, there are a number of resources in and around our city. Business centers, resource centers, associations. All of those individuals who represent or are part of the resource network supporting small and minority business, I'd like you to stand and be recognized. Wayne, that includes you. Don't start looking. Yes, sir. Ms. Gianna, that includes you. Thank you. I want you to look at these individuals because their jobs, their task is to support you in going after these opportunities in one way, shape, form, or another. We're here to help you. So with that, we're going to get directly into the discussion of our panelists. And they were charged to do a couple of things. One is to share their challenges, their opportunities, and to give you some idea how you might be able to access the opportunities that are before you. So we're going to start directly at my right, and we're going to go to the left. My guidelines are each speaker will have 5 to 7 minutes. I'm going to ask you to reserve your questions. There will be cards, small 3x5 cards that are going to be passed around the room. So if you have a question, please raise your hand and someone will come to you with a card. We want to expedite both the questions and the answers. And so we're asking you to please bear with us and write your questions down. So we'll start with Baltimore City Transportation and its director, Ms. Michelle Brousseau. And I'm not going to introduce, they're going to talk a little bit about themselves, 10 seconds. But what I will say, if you think about the infrastructure in Baltimore City, our roads, our highways, potholes, yes, potholes, there's a lot of work to be done. So, Michelle, if you could share. Thank you.
Hello, can you hear me? Good evening, everyone. It's so nice to see a lot of familiar faces in the room. I come to Baltimore City, I've been here about 7 months now, and I was really excited the first time I met with the mayor and talked about the things that I knew I could do in this city. And in my first press conference, I was introduced as having a lifetime of experience in this field. And so I think that's why I know many of you, because I come here to Baltimore after spending over 20 years working with DC Department of Transportation and Public Works and being the director there, but also doing what many of you in the room do, which is working for a couple of consulting firms, doing business development, working for minority and women-owned firms, and knowing the challenges that are that we encounter when we try to work with bigger firms as well as with governments. And so I'm delighted to be here working with Mayor Pugh. As she says, every week I'm sitting in the room with her, telling her about the MBE, WBE, DBE participation we have or we don't have on our work and how we're going to do a better job of it. And so the Department of Transportation in Baltimore is responsible for all of the infrastructure in the city. And Rudy is my best friend, but he gets on my last nerve, messing my streets up. But we have a wonderful partnership. And so what does that mean? That means that we have over 7,000, let me make sure I have my numbers right. We have 2,000 miles of roads. We have 7 miles of interstate highways, almost 300 bridges and culverts, and some of those are not in the city, just like Rudy's portfolio. Some of the portfolio that DOT maintains is out of the city. We have 3,600 miles of sidewalk, curbs, and gutters, almost 500 miles of alleys, 72,000 streetlights, 1,300 signalized intersections. It goes on, and guess what? We have some new things in our portfolio. 38 bike stations with 173 bikes and growing every day. We've got over 50 miles of bike infrastructure. We've got boats. We've got a lot in our portfolio. And so we construct, we maintain, we operate everything in that portfolio. And so that means that every day when you travel on the streets, you're encountering something that I like to say is in my house. Because my house is the biggest quantity of real estate in this whole city. And if I can do what the mayor has charged me to do, which is make that infrastructure better, which I can only do with your help, then we'll all be in a better city and my house will be a better place. And so without further ado, I want to tell you about a few of the contracts we have coming up this year. I want to tell you about what we're doing with on-call and consulting work, and I see a lot of people in the room that work in the consulting environment. And then I want to tell you about a little bit about the future and where we're going. So we got a couple of bridge projects coming up that will be advertised soon. Edison Highway, there are 2 bridges that are over rail. And Edison Highway is one, it's over Amtrak, it's a 9-span bridge. And if you haven't already, there is an information package outside in the common area, and it'll have more detail about all of what I'm telling you about. The other bridge is the Hoffmans Point Bridge, and it's a much bigger bridge. It'll include roadway paving, removal of the CSX tracks, and rebuilding that. We have a few streetscape projects, and I love the streetscape projects because it's our effort at renewing the infrastructure. And so sometimes we fix things in kind, but I love it when we beautify, we enhance, and we turn the environment into what it needs to be to serve the future uses, and not just the uses that always existed. So the streetscape projects are Greenmount Avenue from 29th to 34th Street, Bel Air Road from Cook Avenue to LaSalle Avenue, Sharp Street from Leadenhall, Sharp Street at Leadenhall. And we're working collaboratively with MTA on the west, or we are at the moment, on the West North Avenue and Pennsylvania intersection corridor, with a number of intersection improvements involved in that corridor. We have a number of resurfacing projects that we'll embark on this year, and those contracts are renewed on regular cycles. And so there are construction contracts for resurfacing that we renew and upgrade regularly, so keep a lookout for those. I do want to say that even though all of these will have a prime element, they'll all have minority, woman-owned, or DBE participation required as a part of the effort. And I know that what's so important is that you build relationships with us, with primes, with other entities that you may collaborate with in order to gain the expertise and the qualifications to be selected for this work. The thing I'm most excited about is when I arrived at the city, we hadn't advertised for on-call consultants in a while. And in fact, we were renewing contracts because we were trying to determine what we needed to do to comply with new federal requirements and how that would affect our federally funded as well as our locally funded efforts. But what that did for me was give me the opportunity to look closely at those contract vehicles and what the mayor wants to achieve. And you heard it straight from her. more minority participation, more Baltimore participation, more women participation. Hey, hey, hey. And so what we're doing is we're not only looking at complying with those new standards, we're working with Paul and others on words that we're throwing out there about segmentation, about unbundling, about minimizing thresholds. Because what's important in providing opportunities for everyone is ensuring that our contract vehicles aren't so large that smaller companies, that newer companies, that companies that may not have had all of the same advantages are able to bid as a prime on work that otherwise wouldn't be available, because it's easier for us to put all of our traffic engineering on-call work in one big contract. That's easier, but that's not what we're trying to do here. What we're doing here is providing opportunities to grow the city, to improve the infrastructure, to provide for more competition. Because with competition comes a better product. And so look for new on-calls coming on the street. Working with Rudy and ACEC, we've begun a dialogue around review of those efforts. Also talking with COMTO and WTS to be a part of that panel and review of our work. But this year, we'll be putting on-calls on the street for traffic work, for design work, for planning work, and for other work that we have pulled out of those bigger contract efforts.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to pass it to Rudy. Let me ask a question, and this is important. Are there any reporters in the room? That's a good thing, because I don't want my guests quoted incorrectly, and quoted at all. And I want them to feel free to communicate with you, because this is a small group and there's an opportunity for them to share some things that maybe they would not if a reporter was in the room. So I was very clear, no reporters in the room. Thank you. All right, Rudy, you can tell us all the secrets now.
Thank you, Scott. So Michelle's been here 7 months. I've been here 7 years now. So I am Rudy Chow, and I am the Director of Department of Public Works. While Michelle is focusing on all the above-ground infrastructures, what I'm responsible for are the underground infrastructure, the water lines, the sewer lines, the stormwater lines, and so on, all that. So before I go into my presentation, I just want to at least touch on what the mayor just talked about, the pre-qualification. Now, we do have, DPW has a table out there. So for those of you who have not been pre-qualified, I strongly encourage you to visit the table, because I do have the Chief of Office of Boards Commission is there. She can certainly walk you through in terms of the process. Okay, so the DPW is responsible for the water system. As the mayor mentioned, we are a department within the city. However, we are a regional provider for water and sewer services for the Baltimore metropolitan area. And as well as solid waste. But for today's purpose, I'm just going to be focusing on the water systems. I'm going to be focusing on the water system. I'm going to be focusing on the wastewater system and the stormwater system. So let me just start by throwing, because Scott told me throw numbers out there, so I'm going to throw some numbers out there. Water system. We have 4,000 miles of water lines out there. Average life, 80 years old. Many of the pipelines were installed in the late 1800s. So you can see they're quite old. And that's part of the reason that we have so many breaks in every winter. We go through this every single year. We scramble and try to do all the emergency work we need to do to get every citizen sort of back in water. That 4,000 miles of pipeline carries a price tag of about $8 billion. It's $2 million, fully loaded, from design through construction, for today's style. So what that means is that how do we come across, or how do we go over in terms of get through this so-called winter crisis every year. So we are looking at asset management. We're trying to understand the so-called 4,000 miles of pipeline on the ground. We need to know the condition of it so we can prioritize the work, because we don't have all the money in the world, $8 billion, to do all 4,000 miles at one time, nor can we afford to dig up every single street out there in the city and in the county. So we're going to do it very systematically, we're going to do it very smartly. So in other words, is that I want to make sure that whatever we dig up, whatever we replace is what we call just in time. I don't want to replace anything still got plentiful of useful life, but nor do I want to replace something that's already ruptured. So in the recent years, we want to set a goal of 15 miles of water main replacement on an annual basis. Out of 4,000 miles in the city boundary itself is 1,500 miles. The county systems are much newer. However, that's not our focus right now. In due time, we're going to have to be focusing on the county water system. But right now, our focus is the 1,500 miles in the city. 15 miles a year, 1,500 miles, that's a 100-year replacement cycle. That's the cycle we need to get ourselves in. So at the end of the 100 years, we start all over again. And that perpetually. So this is not something that you replace it and you say, well, I'm done. Right? Because the water line, just like anything else, it ages. As it ages, it's starting to fail. So for the next, just for throw some contracts out there, we have 2 water main projects that's coming up in April, in a couple of months. And then we got 3 additional water contracts that's coming up in fall of this year. So I'm going to switch gear to this wastewater or sanitary system. Many of you know that we are under the federal consent decree for wet weather sanitary sewer overflow. It carries a price tag well over $2 billion. The whole system will have about 2,000 miles of underground sewer lines, and that carries a price tag $4 billion. If you really want to basically replacing it. And right now we are, for this year alone, we're going to be pulling out about $250 million to $340 million in terms of contracts for the consent decree alone. Because we're under the federal mandate, we need to get our structural repairs done by 2020. And that's where a lot of monies are going towards, a lot of sewer lining work, a lot of CCTV work, and all those things are things that you as MBE or WBE or DBE can participate in. Then next is the stormwater system. We are under what we call MS4 permit. MS4 stands for Municipal Separate Sewer Stormwater System. This is the stormwater system. It carries a price tag about $2 billion altogether. Now, this MS4 permit was issued to us in 2013. And it's required for us to replace, basically, converting nearly 1,300 acres of pervious or impervious spaces to pervious. So that means we've got to do a lot of green infrastructure, we've got to do a number of curb bump outs, we do those in partnership with the DOT and those. Now for this year, we have about 138 projects it's been coming out, looking at converting about 929 acres. Now, 138 projects, that's a lot of projects. So what we are doing is actually bundling them to small contracts, medium-sized contracts, and large contracts. So in other words, we want to make sure you as a vendor or you as a contractor can bid on contract that you know you are confident that you can do well in. The last thing we want anything to happen is that you bid something that's more than what you can handle. Because at the end of the day, the performance of the contract will speak volume in terms of the future contract opportunities and the review and evaluation of their performance. So I caution everyone, just, start small and look at your resources, look at your capacity, and bid on the appropriate contract size. So we have, we're going to be advertising 10 contracts in this year. Now, 5 of them is going to be coming out in the next 2 months, and that's valued about $15 million. So I've been throwing a lot of numbers out here. What I guess the message here is that we have a lot of opportunities here in the city. This is the older city. We have a lot of aging infrastructure on the ground. As the federal government beginning to looking at reinvesting in the so-called infrastructure above ground and below ground, I'm certainly very encouraged to actually hear that water system actually now is included when federal government says infrastructure package, right? I mean, this is something I've been working on for 20 years of my career, and just try to get those words into whenever the president talks about, I am spending dollar on infrastructure. In the past, it's always about roads and bridges and about everything else, but in water infrastructure. But I'm very, very encouraged. Those words is actually there now. So what we're trying to do, just like Michelle said, we want to build capacity in the city, because we have abundance of projects that are coming out. So that's the supply and the demand. We got to make sure that we are meeting the equivalency. We don't want to have too much supply when we don't have too many contracts, or vice versa. So anyway, I just want to say again, encourage you to visit the DPW table if you're not certified. Thank you.
Thank you, Rudy. You did pretty good, Rudy, at 9 minutes and 23 seconds.
Michelle took 10, right?
I did. I don't say much to the ladies, Rudy. So, next we have Mr. Steve Sharkey, the Director of Baltimore City Department of General Services. Steve.
Hey everybody, good to see everyone tonight. This is an exciting event, so thank you to the mayor and the congressman and everybody else for putting this event on. So I'm just going to share a couple of my challenges real quick, and then I'm going to just kind of get into the meat and throw a couple projects out at you. Just to start off, it seems like one of the problems we have, and this is, we have a lot of MBE work on our jobs. So DGS is in charge of most of the city buildings, police stations, fire stations, other things, and we have a lot of repair work coming in. And some of these newer jobs that we're doing of major repairs and renovations to these buildings have up to 49% MBE goals on them. So that means a large component of those are going towards MBE, WBE firms. And one of the big problems we have is that, honestly, sometimes it's all the same people in the room, or the same guys bidding. So I'm glad this event's going on tonight. We need more MBE, WBE bidders to come, because a lot of times you see one job and you look down the sheet and there'll be 5 different bidders and they'll all use the same MBEs. More competition helps us, so we would definitely like to see more people get pre-qualified, which again are people, so for building work, the same pre-qualification process as DPW. So you go through the DPW Office of Boards and Commissions to become pre-qualified for our building work, and also for the firms to become MBE certified. A lot of times, a firm will be MBE certified or DBE certified with the state, and then come bid on a DGS job, and the job will get kicked out because they are an MBE, but they're not certified with the city. So that's another piece to make sure that state certification doesn't fall into city certification. You've got to be certified with the city to be able to get in on the city jobs. So again, work with our partners here. We've got a table. Go to Rudy's table. Go to any of the small business resource tables to make sure that you're ready for those opportunities. Because if you have a business reputation, you might have worked with another firm on something. They might come in as a prime, and you might want to jump in on a sub. But if you're not ready when the time comes. and it doesn't, we can't work with you until you've met the pre-qualifications. Just a couple jobs. We do not have the money that Rudy has, but my jobs are much more interesting and easy to explain. So just in the next upcoming year, we're going to have, and again, you can go to our website or email me to see what we have upcoming, or just, read the newspapers and the little tiny thing that says job, the jobs section, or not the jobs, but the advertisement section. So one big thing that we've got going next year is we're trying to really do some renovations on the courthouses. We're going to be doing elevators in the Mitchell Courthouse, which is over $3 million. Roof on Mitchell Courthouse, over $2 million. Renovated courtrooms, which will be over $1 million. Courthouse East roof, also another job for $2 million. So this is going to be, and these are going to have minority and women's business participation. So, we do have a fair amount coming out, and if you have experience in construction trades or other, sub-trades, this will be an opportunity. Also, firehouse work. We've got 2 small firehouse jobs. They're under $500K. If you're new to the game, it might be a good place to get, cut your teeth. Also, we have ongoing different things in different police stations. So different roofs, bathrooms, fire alarms, and other related basic work in Eastern, Northwestern, Western, Central, and police headquarters. So, and I didn't even get into the libraries because I don't want to, take up too much time. There's fair amount of work, fair amount of jobs coming through. If you get prepared, you can jump in. And sometimes if you don't know the people, sometimes you go to a pre-bid meeting, you can meet some of the primes that are coming to try to get the job. So that's another way to kind of get in, try to get your foot in the door. And that's all I have right now. Thank you.
Steve, thank you very much. Before Gail begins, I heard a couple of things. One of them, for smaller contractors, DGS is a great place to get started. Jobs are generally smaller, requirements are a little bit less, so just keep that in mind. And the other thing, just to kind of comment while we're here, Steve mentioned a requirement to be city certified. Courtney Phillips is sitting in the middle of the room, but Courtney has done something that I think is extremely important for you to understand. If you are state certified, the city certification process, the application, is as extensive as the state's. However, if you are state certified, you can streamline that process and talk to Courtney about an affidavit. So you're certified in the state, you can file an affidavit with the city along with some additional information. So now we're going to go to Ms. Gail Bassett, my colleague, the director of the Federal Procurement Center for the Minority Business Development Agency. And Gail, she has her hands on the pulse of a number of federal projects, particularly as it relates to some disaster recovery opportunities. So I won't steal her thunder, but Ms. Gail Bassett.
Good evening, everyone. How are you? My name is Gail Bassett, and I'm the director of the Federal Procurement Center and for minority business development agencies. And for those who do not or are not familiar with the Federal Procurement Center and Minority Business Development Center, it is a bureau of the U.S. Department of Commerce. And the MBE actually awards grants to nonprofit and profit entities to operate these centers. And we have 40 centers across the nation. Scott is a colleague of mine. He is the director of the Advanced Manufacturing Center that specializes in manufacturing services. The Federal Procurement Center is solely focused on helping minority businesses find work in the federal government or federal-related contracts or federal funding contracts, which includes, obviously, highways and construction. So as it relates to Baltimore City, I had to rewrite my notes a little bit, but as it relates to Baltimore City, the federal arena or contractors have, those contracts are used in mega contracts, so it's a large capacity. You have to have certain capacity requirements to do those projects. And what I see the synergy can be here is actually to team with some of our clients to help you leverage what you have to build your capacity so you can do all these contracts. All these contracts that folks are saying are wonderful, but if you don't have the capacity and you're not ready to do the work, then you can't get the work. And everyone on this panel has risk to procure contracts with you. So they're not going to really procure a contract with you unless they know that you're ready to operate that project throughout the life cycle of the project. So what we do is we are the MBE's connectors. We're the advisors. We're your business development arm. Or let me say, we augment your business development arm. We help you with strategic planning, but we help you to identify the right contract for the right company. Because we love contracts, but let me tell you, I was a small business for over 20 years. I started very small. And then I believe when I graduated from the 8A program, I was doing over $50 million. And that was building my capacity as I went. I am passionate about helping small and minority businesses win contracts. But I'm also passionate about making sure that they have the wherewithal to get the contract, because if you fail on the first one, you will probably not have an opportunity, or the chances that you not have an opportunity to get the next one is very slim. So we have many consultants that is on my team, and we have and our consultants are really specialized in certain areas, whether in construction, IT, professional services. We are seasoned professional. Many of you all know me when I was the Secretary of the Department of General Services for the state of Maryland. And you all know that I was passionate about making sure that minorities got their fair share of opportunities of the $1 billion budget that we had. And so I'm just as passionate as the mayor, and I was very encouraged to hear that they are actually doing some of the things that I used to do, rewrite contracts to make sure the minorities are included in the contracts. That's where it starts. It starts from the top. So once you rewrite those contracts, and once you actually put your small business office with your procurement office, and then once you empower your procurement office, your program manager, and your small business and change the culture, then you have something great going on. But if you do all of that, and if you're not ready, then everything fails. So I would encourage you for my last 2 minutes to come and visit us. We will help you with strategic planning. We will help you identify opportunities, but more importantly, we will help you position yourself, like I said before, for the right contract that you are able to go. We will bring teaming partners with you. We will do whatever you need. We are your coaches. We are the people that at 12 o'clock at night and you can't sleep because you have an issue, you need to call us. Because we're there, we are passionate, and we're dedicated to help you, and we're intentional to make sure that it happens.
So with that, this is a good segue for just another brief break. With all of the folks, and I know you've got staff over here that work in any way with the Federal Procurement Center, please stand up. Ken, that's you too. Tony, even though you work with me, that's you too. All right, very good. These are the gentlemen that work with Gail to make that happen. Now, Baltimore and Maryland is very fortunate because we have the Advanced Manufacturing Center, which I run. We have the Federal Procurement Center, which Gail runs. And now I'm going to ask Gianna Hilton to please stand up, and Gary Moore, who run the Baltimore Business Center for MBDA. So once again, these are resources that are funded by the federal government, supported by your city, that can assist you with taking advantage of some of these opportunities. Our next guest is Mr. Eric Lomborn, who's the Chief Procurement Officer and Director of Procurement for the State Highway Administration. Eric.
Good evening, everybody. So, I apologize, I didn't have a whole lot of time to prepare, so I'm sort of going to wing it here. Listening to my fellow panelists here, especially Michelle, everything she was speaking on, sort of take out this Baltimore City portion and put SHA in, And we're facing a lot of the same challenges. We have issues with the new federal regulations, trying to figure out how to make everything work under them. We have challenges with getting and retaining staff. I recently took over the Office of Procurement probably about a year ago. And out of my 30-some employees, I currently have nobody on staff that's been with me for longer than a year.
Wow.
So we've made a lot of sweeping changes. We've been reforming processes, which will include, and this is why I'm here to speak with you tonight, we have looked at our processes and found that in some cases we're actually excluding opportunities for minority businesses, small businesses. So we are looking to unbundle. We are looking to figure out portions of these mega contracts that our agency is used to putting out there, and we're looking for opportunities where we can see, are there competitors out there in the market that are looking for these contracts? Where can we get the competition? Because that's what we're about. We want active, hardy, and cutthroat competition to get these contracts in front of you guys. Upcoming contract opportunities. We cover the gamut. So the great thing about SHA is I don't get sort of shoehorned into one sort of segment of procurement. We do construction, we do maintenance of highways, maintenance of buildings, we do some commodity purchasing. We pretty much run the gamut of what we do. Our bread and butter is A&E consulting contracts. So we let between 50 and 100 contracts over the normal year. Last year we let about 160. And we're talking hundreds of millions, if not into the billions, of dollars of contracts that we currently have. One of the major opportunities that y'all should be looking for very soon, and you may have heard the governor talk about it, may have heard my boss, the Secretary of Transportation, talk about it. We have a little project that's called Traffic Congestion Relief on 495 and 270. So we're going to be issuing some solicitations for that project coming up. There will be a 25% DBE, actually I'm sorry, it's state funded, so it's MD gold on that contract. So keep an eye out, there'll be opportunities coming. And in our normal business, we're also looking at SBE opportunities, which is because a lot of what we do is federal funded. So that's one of the challenges my office has. MBE and DBE are different programs. SBR and SBE are different programs, a lot of times with different rules and conflicting priorities. So we struggle with that. But we are looking at introducing new SBE and SBR opportunities. So again, looking for ways of creating contract opportunities in that realm. Cut your teeth on some of these smaller contracts. Keeping highways clean, like the litter pickups, mowing, all the things like that. We're looking at primarily push them in the SBR realm. The SB for even A&E contracts, we are starting to let contracts that are smaller dollar values, so we're talking $1 to $3 million for a specific geographic region that we're targeting for SBEs. So we're trying to make and improve our effort towards reaching out to the minority and small business arena. Other than that, I mean, we're pretty much open, as my boss likes to say, we're open for business. You can stop by our MDOT booth out there or talk to me afterwards, give you cards. Go to our website. We normally do have up-to-date information about upcoming opportunities. I will admit, we've been a little behind on updating it recently, so some of the information may not be as fresh as we'd like it. Look for that to change in the next couple of weeks. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Very good. So you threw out some acronyms. I want to make sure folks understand. SBE, Small Business Enterprise, and SBR, Small Business Reserve. Understand some of that is for federal funding and some of that is for state funding. And the concepts of an MBE versus a DBE, many of you are probably familiar with that as well. Minority Business Enterprise for the state of Maryland, the Disadvantaged Business Enterprise for the federal government. Now, our next guest, I gotta admit, this is my friend. So I saved him for last. He better not mess up. So we saved my friend for last, Mr. Ricky Smith, the CEO of Thurgood Marshall, BWI Airport, and the Maryland Aviation Administration. Mr. Smith.
Thanks a lot, my friend. So as Scott mentioned, I am Ricky Smith, actually the Executive Director of the Maryland Aviation Administration, which owns and operates BWI Thurgood Marshall Airport as well as Martin State Airport. How many of you are familiar with Martin State Airport? Raise your hand. How many of you actually fly in and out of Martin State Airport? Okay, that's what I try to do. Martin is a smaller general aviation airport, so you probably don't use that airport if you're either flying an aircraft or you're someone who's actually flying an aircraft. So anyway, first of all, I want to thank the mayor for her opening comments. I love our mayor to death. She's a good friend. She's a great visionary. I also want to thank our Congressman Cummings on Vernon, if you can pass along to him when you get off the phone, that I'm sharing him some well wishes that he hopefully will get well soon and back out on the street. I'm just calling Vernon out, that's all. So, I know I am. So BWI Marshall is challenged both from a passenger standpoint and an operations standpoint. We see those challenges as opportunities. You've probably heard us talk about it time and time again about the record-setting growth. We've had 29 months of record-setting growth out of the last 30 months, and the 1 month that we missed was September, and that was because of the hurricanes in Florida, and we missed the record by 0.4%. So growth is a mainstay at BWI Airport. And as you have growth, at an airport facility, you have capacity issues. So airports are like small cities. I mean, there's hardly anything that we don't buy at one point or another at the airport. We buy all the construction services, the A&E services, or architect and engineering services, maintenance services. We even sell a few items, right? And I'll get into that a little bit later. But in terms of the passenger growth issues, we operate about 600 flights a day. That's about 70,000 passengers a year. That's about the size of Bethesda coming through your airport every day. So we handle an enormous number of people. And with those people come stress on your facility, particularly when your facilities are 13, 14 to 20 years old. Talking about some of the newer parts of the facility. So to address those, airports are always under construction. We're always building. We just opened about a year ago what we call our DE Connector, which is about a $150 million facility that offered, introduced more gates, a new state-of-the-art security checkpoint. Hopefully some of you had a chance to see it, as well as some new food and retail concepts for our customers to use. The Southwest Terminal, how many of you have flown Southwest lately? If you go to the Southwest Terminal during peak periods, you see people sitting all over the floor, right? Sitting outside of hold runs. The food court is overcrowded, and that's because the facility that we opened about 15 years ago is now too small. Southwest has told us that we are their #1 facility in terms of their growth plans, but they cannot grow anymore until we completely overhaul the baggage handling system. How many of you have had a problem getting your baggage returned in the Southwest Terminal? All right, only 2 people, that's great. The rest of you have denied it. It's because the system is too small. So we have about a $600 million project that we will embark on later this year to completely overhaul the Southwest Terminal. We're going to add 5 additional gates to the A concourse. We're going to push the food court out about 300 feet into the airfield area. Completely overhaul the baggage handling system, which will be underground, and add some more food and retail concepts, as well as some new restaurants. So there will be opportunities there for you to either provide planning and engineering services, construction services, and a host of other services. And I'll talk about food and retail a little bit later. My international terminal, we've since 2010, we've grown 122% in terms of our international program. So we have under construction now a 6-gate extension to our international terminal. Although that contract is underway, there's still opportunities in the way of doing finishing work and some other final stage construction-related activities on that contract. That's about a $160 million project, and hopefully you find some interest there as well. We also just completed the final stages of a master plan. So airports are required by the FAA to develop a plan for the use of its entire facility. You can't build a structure in an airport without the FAA approving in advance. So we just completed that project for passenger levels going out to 40 million passengers. That's a $7 billion master plan. It's not term limited because it's when we reach 40 million passengers that we're doing the plan. So there'll be a host of opportunities there. Our roadway system, how many of you have tried to get into BWI Marshall during peak period driving in the roadway system? Sometimes it's like a parking lot. When you get tired of raising your hand, right? It's like a parking lot because the roadway system is too small because 70% of our passengers are all trying to come through the same thoroughfare, right, at the beginning of the terminal. So we have to expand our roadway system. Well, to do that, we have this facility in the way. It's called our hourly garage. That's in the way. So we're going to have to redo our hourly garage. Michelle's here. She's with the agency that owns our garage, the Northern Transportation Authority. And so they will be financing that, but that will be a significant project as well. So customer service, you won't find an airport in the country that's not focused on customer service, and we're obsessed with it. We call ourselves the Easy Come, Easy Go Airport. We think we are the Easy Come, Easy Go Airport. We're certainly the most popular and most used airport in the Washington, Baltimore region. I like saying that because we're the biggest, and that gap is growing. So to try and maintain our customer service position, a project that is near and dear to my heart that you'll probably hear more about in 2019 is what I call the CD Connector Complex. So after we build those 5 gates that I talked about on the A concourse and the 6 gates open on the international concourse, that's the last expansion we can do without building a new air traffic control tower. Our air traffic control tower is one of the first built in the country. It's over 50 years old, and we cannot install next generation technology in the facility. So a part of the CD Connector Complex is a new air traffic control tower, a new 4-star hotel, as well as new administrative offices, a new airport operations center, and 4 to 5 additional gates, as well as an expanded baggage handling system. That's probably another $600 million project. There will be a lot of opportunities coming with that as well. I call that my legacy project. Like once I complete that, I can go home and start watching The Price is Right or something. But we do a lot of other stuff that my other colleagues here can't talk about, and that is revenue-generating contracts. So we have what's called the Airport Concessions Program. Our food and retail program is operated by Air Mall. Air Mall is a developer. The significance of that is that they do not own or operate any of the food and retail concepts. They can only enter sublease agreements. As we grow the facility, we're looking for more operators of food and retail programs. We just launched what we call a Launchpad program, where we allow small companies that otherwise would not have the opportunity to get into the airport because of the natural barriers of entry, the cost of building structures, to open kiosks. We brought 4 of them in, and they're all doing extremely well. We're about to do a new cycle of those, right? And they're all doing quite well. So that's a program that we're excited about. If you're interested in that, we can talk about that. But our normal food and retail program is you have a product that you want to sell, or if you have a franchise that you want to bring into the airport, you come to us and we work with them all and try to see if we can work you into our program. We do A&E work just like everyone else. There's a story that I like to tell in terms of what the opportunities are for taking advantage of opportunities at BWI. So it's about 15 years ago, just before I left to go to Cleveland, a young man, he was younger then, who was an engineer with a company called URS, invited me out to lunch. It was a good lunch too, tip up too. And he wanted to talk to me because he was trying to make a career decision as to whether or not he was going to continue working with URS or if he was going to leave and start his own company. He was a little nervous about starting his own company because he wasn't sure if he would get business. So I looked him in the eye and I said, look, and I'll call his name is Cedric Johnson, he owns ADCI. I said, Cedric, the only reason why we continue to contract URS is because you're on the team. So if you left URS, guess what? We find you. So Cedric started his own firm. Today, he is the largest minority airport engineering company in the country. And he's at 7 different airports. And we don't do projects without touching. He's just that good. So there are Cedrics in the room here, right? If you can find the value and take the lead. I guess I'll close by saying, in terms of how you access these projects, I mean, there are traditional approaches to accessing projects. But I would say if your first attempt to do business at the airport is through a pre-bid or pre-proposal meeting, you're already too late, right? You need to attend planning meetings. We have planning meetings all the time where we're talking about stuff that we're going to do 10, 15 years down the road. You need to be in those meetings because that's where you get a feel for the types of business opportunities that are coming and who you need to partner with in order to take advantage of those opportunities. Outreach events. I'm going to do a little commercial here on April the 1st. We'll have our Synergy BWI 18 outreach event. It's from 7 to 4 at BWI Marriott. If you haven't attended that before, please attend. Some of the people in the room here will be speaking on the panel, so hopefully you'll attend that as well. And then, you should always try to meet the procurement professionals and the program managers in these various organizations. That's certainly true. For BWI, we try to make them available because they can give you insight. Particularly when it comes to A&E contracts, often we're making decisions based on who's on the team, right? And so if we don't know you, if we don't know who you are, what you stand for, what your company stands for, what kind of experience you have, then you probably get overlooked. So it's important to develop relationships with the procurement professionals and the program managers. The program managers are normally on the teams that are evaluating those procurements. And then, yes, you still should come to the pre-bid, pre-proposal meetings because you meet colleagues, you meet competitors, you meet primes, you meet other subs that are looking for companies to partner with. With respect to our revenue-generating contracts, our parking program, we currently have SP Plus managing our parking program. That is the largest revenue source for airports. Well, that contract expires next year, so we'll be looking for a new parking management company. The valet product that we just launched is a minority-owned company that has an office here in Maryland that we told SP to sell with, right? Because we thought that opportunity was appropriate for them. And so that's coming. That is subject to the Airport Concessions Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Program, ACBDE. We have a 29% goal on all of those revenue-generating contracts, and we're surpassing that goal. So you can pursue the opportunities where state agencies or others are spending money, or you can pursue opportunities where you're actually generating revenue. I always encourage you to consider those opportunities because you get a contract with, I'm going to pick on my friend at State Highway, you get a contract with State Highway, guess what, when that project is over, you're done, unless you get another one. You get a concessions contract at the airport, they're normally 6, 7, 8, 9 years long, right? So the opportunity there is enormous, not enough of us pursue those opportunities, but we're certainly interested in talking to you about them. You can also go to emailandmarketplace.com, emailandmarketplace.com, or bwiairport.com to see what we're doing as well. So Scott, I don't know how much time I took, that's my story, I'm going to stick with it.
So that was a really good 12 minutes and 48 seconds. But it was a very good 12 minutes and 48 seconds, so you didn't disappoint. Thank you very much, Ricky. So now we have an opportunity for questions, and I have not received any questions, so I'm going to start. There are numbers that popped out this evening based on the comments that were shared. One of them, because I'm, now into this manufacturing thing, somebody has got to manufacture 72,000 streetlights. Michelle, what is that opportunity all about?
So I'm glad you asked that question because the mayor has a very important initiative that's called Be More Bright. That's adding lighting to the city, and it's a part of our violence reduction initiative. But Baltimore City is ahead of many jurisdictions in that we're updating all 72,000 of those streetlights with LED lighting. And about half has been done. We're partnering with BGE. They've been a great partner on this. And beginning this summer, we're going to start embarking on the other half, and we'll be complete with that by 2020. We're working through a concessionaire, and so there'll be an opportunity that comes through a concessionaire. And I'm gonna need for you to look out on our website so that you know how to compete for that work. We're also installing 6,000 new lights, and that work will begin this summer, and it'll also be done through a concessionaire, and it'll be complete next year. And so the way this work happens is it's not through a AE or construction contract process. It's through our purchasing contracts. You have to be E-certified, what's it called? It's
They have to certify, well, register with,
IMBU, that's an IMBU certification.
okay. So, but it's through purchasing, so a whole, I don't even know a lot about it, but it is a prime opportunity because everything that's on the public space is purchased by DOT. Sign plates, sign posts, street lights, and new technology. And so we're really embarking on new technology and want to team and partner with you on new industries and testing out new types of equipment.
Very good. Yes, Carl.
Again, my name is Carl Evans. I appreciate you taking the time to listen. I was one of the planners of this event along with a number of people, and we wanted to be valuable to you. Not that the panelists are not really forthcoming and provide a lot of information, but it would help the panelists as well if they had a chance to hear from some of the individuals here beyond the questions in terms of the types of things that they might be able to do. Gail Bassett, for one, you have a relationship with AECOM. I know AECOM is here in terms of a strategic partnership that you're going to try to do something with in terms of the airport. There are individuals here who actually do some of the work in regards to water tunnels, might want to talk about the liners and the other product uses that they might have. This gentleman here is with Enlighten, a very large African-American firm that actually comes with answers. They have a project management office type strategy that they use where they will incorporate a number of firms that might ordinarily be small, but collectively they have greater capacity to perform. And so it might be good to just take a little time just to kind of share, have some of the people share.
So why don't we do this? I know that there are a number of questions coming, Carl. You raised a couple of points, and I'm going to ask the panelists if they'd like to comment on those. Let me get the questions, and let's see how we flow on the session.
Okay, and if we have a chance, let's see if some of the individuals can speak to some of the areas that I've already discussed.
Understood.
Thanks, Paul.
All right. Any questions from the audience before we move into that segment? And comments. I think the comment about some of the architectural firms or large GCs that the agencies are working with today. Would you make comments about who some of your larger partners are?
On the AE side, we do a lot of work with the larger Baltimore businesses. And so RKK, WRA, JMT, I think WSP is one of the few international firms that we have on-call work with. And on the very few specific contracts that we lack, we get other firms in. And so it's the usual kind of Baltimore, Maryland crew that's currently all on our on-calls, hoping to see some expansion of that as we move toward new ways of doing that work. And the construction contractors, I don't know enough yet, and so I don't want to throw any names out there, but there are some regulars on that as well.
Sure. Michelle is absolutely correct. I mean, in Baltimore, we have what we call our typical, the consultant firms that's been here for decades, right? But at the same time, I want to stress how important and how much that we are working on try to attract additional vendors, additional consultants that hasn't done any business with the city to set up shops here. I mean, part of the things that the issue that folks talk to me about is that they say, well, you talk about all these projects, but in the past, I have attempted to set up shop here thinking there's contract coming down the pipeline, but once I've done that, there was no contract, right? So that's the past sort of the mistakes that we're trying to change here, and that's part of the reason why we are very deliberate in terms of identifying our contracts. Our capital programs, we have more than 1,400 projects that's laid out in the next 6 years. And that's our capital programs. And that's something that's transparent, that's on the website, people can look at it. So what we're trying to do is change the mentality of saying, well, there might be a chance that the contract is being led by the city. We want to make sure when we say we're going to do this, we're actually going to do it. So we don't waste anybody's time, energy, money, because it takes a lot of resources to set up an office here in Baltimore and try to do business. Not to mention the effort of penetrating, right? Penetrating into what I call the normal, typical consultant that we use. So I'm always out there talking about, encouraging others from outside of the city, coming to the city, wanting to create the bench strength, the competitions, so we can get better products, and so on and all that. So the door is wide open. This is something that the mayor has talked to us about repeatedly. And because we know, we can't continue to operate in a very closed environment where it's only the few that continue to do business in the city, and there are folks on the outside that can do wonderful jobs and wonderful work for us, and they just need an opportunity and chance to actually do that. So by all means, if you are from outside of the city, by all means, when we say we are going to do the contract I just talked about, the 15 miles, that's something that we already set the money aside. I had told my staff, for example, when we look at our budget, we say, well, like in the past, the reason why we haven't done any water main replacements because all the money had went to emergencies. So what I did when I came to the city, it says, no, we must. There's no if or buts. We have to do this 15 miles a year to get us on that better path. So right off the top, the money is set aside. It's not competed for anything else. The money is earmarked. So that 15 miles is there. The consent decree is there. It's federal mandates. We know we're going to do that. So this is not something that perhaps in the past we say, well, let's find excuses not to do the things that we're supposed to do. Right now, we are all about trying to do the right thing, be very deliberate about delivering the services to the citizens here.
I know we've got questions from the audience, but I'm going to take the questions that have come here first. But before I do that, Ricky, you mentioned some folks, and I know you've got some significant A&E partners over at EWI. You've already mentioned SP, your large opportunities with parking. So if you can talk about your partners, the big guys.
So we have quite a few, and many of them you're familiar with. AECOM. AECOM doing work across the transportation and public works spectrum. Jacobs does a lot of work for us. We have, by the way, we have both program management, construction management, architectural, engineering and design firms, as well as non-construction related planning firms. I mentioned HCI Parsons does a lot of work for us. Baker does a lot of design work for us. There's a firm, a minority-owned firm called Jacobs & Daniels, based out of Ypsilanti, that has an office in Maryland. They do a lot of our strategic planning work. Landry Brown does master plans for airports all over the world. They're very well respected. Lee Fisher is a financial consulting firm. Unison is a minority-owned financial financial consulting firm, a concessions consulting firm. And so that's the A&E side. On the construction side, I mean, Whitey Turner, Flanagan, Allen Myers, which is one of the larger companies along the East Coast, and Mahogany, which is a local minority-owned company that also does construction work for people.
So please note those names. Let me ask you this. On the contracts that they have, do all of them require NDE or DBE participation?
Any state-funded contract in the state of Maryland has a minority business requirement.
And for all of your general contractors, how are they doing?
So on all of our contracts, we have NDE requirements, and they all do very well. I mean, the airport can be challenging. Work on the airfield is a little more difficult. So Allen Myers, for example, although we had a 15% goal in that contract, they came in at 12%. Because we don't have a lot of minority firms that are that have the certifications to do some of the lighting work and paving work on their field. But yeah, we tend to be our NDE.
Carl's got his hand, he's going up. Hold on, Carl. Oh, calm down, Carl. Because there are a number of questions. Go ahead.
I always get myself in trouble when I push the envelope, but I'm going to push a little bit today. Thank you, Carl. I'm just piggybacking on what Carl said. Yes, we know who the contractors are, but we have to get intimate with those contractors. We have to have a forum where the contractors really meet the minority businesses, and so the minority businesses can understand what is required from the contractors. And so it's all about relationships. Because, you know, you can name all the engineers and the construction companies all you want to, but if they don't want to do business with you because you don't know how to do business with them, then it doesn't matter. So one of the things that we're doing at the Federal Procurement Center, because we are, the center is operated by the Minority Supply Development Council, who Sharon Pender is the president, we are getting with those corporate businesses, the Lockheeds, the Raytheons, the BAEs. They have large federal projects. And so we are leveraging the resources that we have with our centers, and I will suggest that you all do the same. And then the corporate members are bringing their leaders in to talk to our contractors so they know exactly what's required. Because if you don't, it's a guesswork when you are engaging into a contract with them on a teaming agreement, because if you never work with them, then you don't know what's required from the larger company. When I worked on the Virginia mega projects, a lot of the Virginia MBEs or DBEs came over and they maybe were doing $300,000–500,000 a year. Well, overnight they were doing $10 million, and they had no idea how to work with Floor Lane. They didn't even know how to submit their invoices. And what was happening, because they didn't understand the process, they didn't get paid on time because they didn't understand how to submit the invoice. So we had to go in and we had to first get trained from the prime contractors on how do you do business so we can train our MBEs so everybody can be on the same page. So I would encourage, you know, the folks on the panel, and it's, you know, it's not really an out-of-the-box thing. It's just engaging intentionally and being intentional about how do you really include minorities into your contract opportunities.
So Scott, so a typical government agency will hold an outreach event, right? And they'll sit there behind the table, they'll have their best clothes, and you're asking for an opportunity to put you on a bidders list, on an interest file, because state government can't hand you a contract across the table. They can't do it. Synergy is different. In Synergy, I require all of my contractors to exhibit, because they can negotiate contracts, subcontracts, employment opportunities on the spot. So again, commercial for Synergy, April 1st, 7 to 4, BWI Marriott.
So, quick question for the other agencies. I know all of you do outreach. Any quick advertisements for outreach opportunities where you're going to put your largest contractors with folks in this audience?
Now, how many of you are familiar with the cities that are putting on twice a year of capital programs or capital projects from DOT, DPW, DGS, Rex and Parks and Housing and all that? How many of you are familiar with it? Well, if you're not familiar with that, I strongly encourage you to attend that. We do it twice a year, spring and fall. We basically go through all of our capital programs in the coming year and or the next 6 years. Now, in addition to that, we, meaning the DPW, we have partnered with others, put on what we call a small business a training program that we looking out for entrepreneurs that wants to get into the sort of set up shops and to do some of the AE work and or construction work. I mean, we've been doing this for 2 years now. This past year, we just graduated 50 plus so-called individuals that basically talk about some of the things that Gail talked about. How do you do contract with the city? How do you fill the form outs? Where do you need to go? And at the same time, creating that opportunity to have some face time, not, for you to meet with the primes. And some of the primes, matter of fact, that help teach some of these classes that we have put on. So the opportunities are there. And we will continue to do that. And I know each individual departments will do additional outreaches throughout the years.
So one of the things I didn't hear you say, Rudy, and I think that's one of the things that we got to figure out, which Ricky seems to be doing a little differently, is making sure that the primes are directly engaged in some of the outreach opportunities and getting them in those discussions. We had a couple of questions, though, that went in a different direction. We're talking a lot about construction opportunities. And I know we have with Enlighten, I think Razvi from Fiber Electronics is in the building. Emerging technology and things like fiber or smart technologies. There's no conversation about that as it relates to your infrastructure projects, which really brings in a different type of skill set and company. Any comments on that?
Yeah, so let me start, and then I know Michelle and Steve probably have other comments. The fact that, I addressed underground infrastructure. We all know it's underground, generally 4-6 feet or more on the ground. Now, so how do we know the condition of it? How do we know when to replace certain section of the pipes? And that's where the technology comes in. In that space, the technology come a long way. And the number of technology being introduced in terms of to do in situ sort of inspection of the pipelines, measuring the thickness of the pipeline, looking for leaks and looking for things that we can address them proactively. So that absolutely, that is the space that we're in, and I know that's well. First of all, I just came back today from because I'm a part of the EPA's Environmental Finance Advisory Board, which is looking at basically for the financial aspect of it. And now one of the things that EPA really top on is technology. How do you introduce and bring new technology into the infrastructure arena so you can make smarter decisions to make the decision at the right time? So, the opportunity is endless, and technology, as we all know, it continues to evolve in a very, very rapid pace.
So the Wi-Fi service at the airport, at BWI Marshall, is supposed to be free Wi-Fi. We use a technical term to describe the service. It sucks. It is. It's not a good Wi-Fi service at all. And so we're going to overhaul, replace the entire Wi-Fi infrastructure in the airport starting next year. So that's a technology opportunity available. We have about 160 FIDs, flight information display screens, baggage information display screens throughout the airport. Those monitors are over 15 years old. It's dated technology now. We have a project that we're going to launch next year to replace all of those screens with the latest screen technology, I guess is what you'll call it. I can't get into fiber and all that kind of stuff. That's above my head, or above however you want to talk about it. But
So who runs that? Who's the person? Right, so if you've got these folks that have got these great ideas to bring to bear, they're not going to see the A&E guys.
So the CIO for BWI Marshall is a gentleman named William Lenz. But you can call me, and I'll help you get to him, and I don't have a problem giving my number out.
Okay, perfect. Very good. Sir, Did you pass your question up here? Clearly you didn't.
The question I had is that, all right, they want minorities to come on board with contracts, but some of the contracts are, let's say, $50,000, but they want you to have $1 million in bond. And if you're just starting out or a good new company, it's very hard to obtain $1 million worth of bond. And another situation, Baltimore school system. I got a contract as a subcontractor.
And I gotta ask you sir, a question.
What?
I'm just asking you to just ask you a question.
Oh,
Yes, sir.
my question is, why do they need $3 million worth of insurance? And every other entity in the state of Maryland only requires $2 million.
That's a fair question. Two questions. One, and both of them are related. One has to do with bonding, the other with insurance, the idea of risk management or risk mitigation, particularly on smaller contracts. Are there programs to address that, and how do your agencies deal with the smaller contracts?
Well, I mean, a few years ago, I know in the state of Maryland, the sureties, the liability insurance that was required, the bonding requirements for state contracts was probably overestimated. The Lieutenant Governor led a procurement reform initiative about a year ago, and they examined those issues, and I think they were able to right-size a lot of the insurance requirements and bonding requirements for a lot of state contracts.
I know at SHA, since I've taken over, we've looked at that issue because a lot of our maintenance contracts were requiring outrageous bonds for them for work that we couldn't quite figure out why we were bonding it. So we've taken a look at when we're applying it, how we're applying it, what amount we're looking at. And I think you'll find that our process is going to get a little more favorable to small business folks because we realize that a lot of times in substitution for proper contract management, they were trying to use bonds as a tool to manage the contract rather than actually putting the effort forth, working with the vendor, making sure that the work was getting done, monitoring was happening. Instead, they just waited for somebody not to perform. When we have a bond, we're going to collect our money. So we realize that's not really a good way to be open for business and to work with our partners. So we have begun addressing that. I apologize if we haven't gotten to the segment of contracting you're involved in, but we are working through that as we move through our segment, looking at every process that we deal with.
Thank you. And I think it's important that the bonding and insurance requirements really match the scope of work that these firms are dealing with. So that's an issue we got to deal with. I want to get two other questions, right? I'm limited to two other, and I got about 10 up here. There are a group of students from a procurement and supply chain management class, right? Students. Any students in the building? Raise your hand. There you go, our students. And they've got a pressing question, which is understanding job opportunities associated with this infrastructure business, right? So not only is this about contracting opportunities, but what do we see in terms of skill sets and job opportunities?
Okay, so let me start. We are always looking for good talents. One of the things that as a department that we are focusing on is we talk about backfilling positions. Many of our folks are near or past retirement age, and then at the end of the day, they look behind them and say, well, who is coming behind them? Are we attracting individuals? And I would say we have been very active in, for example, in Morgan and others, universities are in Baltimore City and the surrounding area, going to the school system, talking about our needs. We need engineers, we need accountants, basically it's every sort of aspect of so-called business, HR professionals, IT professionals, the opportunity is there. And so we are putting ourselves out to the schools to introduce these opportunities to the students because we do want to attract you to come work for us. And so there's a lot of effort going on there from that aspect of it. At the same time, the rank and files, the labor side of the needs, the supplies, operators, right? We need operators that operate treatment plants, treating clean water, treating wastewater coming back. All these are professions that lots of people don't think about. They just think when they open the faucet, the water is supposed to come out, and then flush the toilet, the wastewater is supposed to go away. But there's a lot of work, a lot of hardworking folks behind the scene to making that happen. So we are actually tackling on both aspects of those so-called human resources needs.
And did I hear you say you're procurement students?
Yes, supply chain management students.
I'm always hiring, so I say it jokingly, but as of now, I am currently the only procurement office in MDOT that is growing. So when I took over, there were 16 people, including the director's position. We're now up to 30-some positions. As soon as we can fill them all, we don't have a lot of talent to choose from. If you're in that arena, please look on the MDOT website for jobs that are coming up. And if you're a Morgan student, then we do participate in the Morgan internship program. So we currently are in the process of selecting interns to work in various offices throughout SHA, including my office, which is, if you're really interested in procurement, we can give you exposure to every kind of procurement you could ever imagine doing, except for IT. We don't do a whole lot with IT because that's do it. We don't play with their stuff. So other than that, we can help you out. Please feel free to see me, and we can talk about seeing about if that's something you're interested in with the internship program. And if you're looking for a full-time job, once you graduate, please come and talk to me, because again, the talent pool is limited right now. And I realize as we do more and more recruitments that we are now just robbing from MAA, from MTA, all the MDOT modals rob from each other to get their folks in line. So each person that wants to take the next step on the ladder, they just leave and go to the next agency that's offering the bigger, better deal. And then once they get trained up from us, then the counties pay them more and steal them from us. Or the city pays more occasionally, so they steal them from us. So we're good at training folks for everybody else's jobs. So we want to get you in. We'll train you for a while. As long as you stay with us for a while, we'll get you plenty of training.
It only works for the top.
At the risk of beating a dead horse, the synergy event that I mentioned, the second half of that day, from 1 to 4 is in career fair. Right? So I invite all of our Morgan students, we had plenty of them last year, to come out and be exposed to opportunities, not just with the Maryland Aviation Administration, but again, we will have all of our business partners there with us, and so you'll have a chance to become exposed to employment opportunities in the airport industry, and hopefully I'll see you there.
Very good. Steve, you got that mic. You look like you're ready.
Jump in real quick. A lot of times with government, getting into the government is the hardest part with the job. So when you're starting out younger, you just got to look at all the lists, go onto the Baltimore City website, get onto the little program and click all the buttons so that an email comes out to you whenever the jobs come up. So there's procurement officer jobs that are in the procurement department, which is not our department. There's other contract administrator jobs that are available. And sometimes you just got to start by just getting on the lists. And then it's weird because you get yourself on the list and you think, oh great, I'm on the list. And they don't call you. And then a year later they call you and say, hey, we're ready. So sometimes that's a labor of love to get into the city or into the government field. And then from there, a lot of times you can jump up to the next levels or get into other government agencies a lot easier once you get that initial experience.
Michelle.
I just want to add that that procurement background is very valuable. And so don't only look at procurement, look at project management, look at contract management, look at construction management, look at grants management, look at compliance. The kind of skills you learn in that field are valuable across the board in our departments. And there are vacancies right now in all those areas.
Thank you. There were a number of other questions. I'm going to summarize these questions. I'm going to run through. You're not going to have an opportunity to answer them all, and I'll try to make a commentary on a few of them. One of the questions that was asked is, what does it take to get legal services and insurance services minority participation? professional services participation on contracts and opportunities. And I think that's a fair one, because once again, we talk a lot about general contracting opportunities, A&E opportunities. Anybody want to make it real quick, one person, to comment on professional services? That's fine, Ricky, go ahead.
Well, legal services, all legal services are handled through for the state of Maryland, are handled through the Attorney General's office, right? Financial services, particularly if you want to be bond counsel or an advisor on bond issuance, that's all handled by the Maryland Public Transportation's Office of Finance. Again, I can provide you more information offline.
So everybody, these individuals, they're going to be around for a little while after this, and that's part of what we want to do, and that's why I'm starting to get the hook, because they want to give you the opportunity to talk to the panelists and their staffs at the tables that they have outside. That would include then things like courier services. All of those services have some way of being procured through your agencies, right?
Yes.
Okay. There was another question specifically, and I'm going to ask this question to be answered afterwards at one of the tables. Rudy, I think this is either you or Michelle, the status of the Howard Street Tunnel Project and the economic impact of the tunnel project. I think that may be both of them. Keep that in mind. All right. Now, this I will do. I think it's important. I'm going to ask each one of the panelists to very quickly provide contact information. Get your pens and papers out and ready. Each of the panelists, starting with Michelle. Do they already have it? It's in your packet. So somebody asked that question, it's in your packet. So I don't have to do that. Let me do this. All of the GCs, the large prime contractors, if you're in the room and representing the room, could you please stand up? All the large prime contractors. Very good. Very good. Real quick, I'm going to do this very quick. Name of your company, your name and the name. No, please stand up. Don't sit down. Don't sit down. Don't sit down. You stood up. Because these folks need to know who to do business with. Name of your company and the business that you do.
Hello everyone, my name is Monique Smith. I'm the COO of R.E. Harrington Plumbing and Heating. We do the underground infrastructure, water, sewer, drainage systems.
Thank you. Next, go right ahead.
I'm Harry Smart. I'm with AECOM, the Water Design Group.
Very good.
Jeff McCormick, Rail Transit. AECOM, Rail Transit.
AECOM, Urban Planning.
And I'm Angela Jones, AECOM, Surface Transportation and Planning.
Joe Kittner, Johnson Murray and Thompson, JMT, Architectural Engineering.
Ken Swan, Old Shooting Construction, Middle Wastewater.
What was the name of that?
Old Shooting.
Thank you.
Nathan Scowl with Park Construction.
Andy's here with Whiting Turner. We have a booth outside, big orange banner. You can't miss us. We'll be waiting for you.
Evening, Dave Coyne with JMT.
Brendan Esbine with Whiting Turner, General Contractor.
Thank you very much. So everybody's got an opportunity to see the large GCs that are in the room. Want to make sure, all of my friends, AECOM and all of my friends, we're going to have a lot of visitors after this is over. That's part of what this is really, really, really all about. This evening, everyone, you had an opportunity to hear opportunities in a number of agencies. We're talking billions of dollars. And so the issue really is you have to get in where you fit in and fit in where you can get in. Be ready, Ms. Gail Bassett said. And if you're not ready, seek out services and assistance. There are a number of service providers in the room. We didn't mention the Small Business Resource Center. We got Jim and Vernon in the room. Folks have tables outside. We want you to avail yourselves of the opportunity to grab additional information. We want to thank our guests for sharing. Can we get a big round of applause? I would be remiss if I didn't thank Morgan State University for hosting us. I think Dean Bogosian was here earlier, the Dean of the Business School, and Dr. Wilson. I thank you all for coming out this evening. The evening is not over. Please take advantage of the time that we have left. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.